Hi everyone. So today we're going to be reading an article in reference to Trump's current trip to the Middle East, which apparently is his first trip abroad as president or first like state trip. I know he went to the Pope's funeral last week, so I don't know. I guess that doesn't really count. So this article is called "Trump Pulls Sanctions on Syria, Extends Olive Branch to Iran." Um, so let's see. President Donald Trump's visit to Saudi Arabia marks a significant shift in U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. And sorry, it's cut off, but I don't think the article will be. So let's go through it, and we'll see. I'll just give some commentary, and we'll see what we think of this. So Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. President Donald Trump announced plans Tuesday to lift sanctions against the Syrian government and expresses, in his strongest terms yet, a willingness to negotiate with Iran, signaling a reordering of U.S. foreign policy in which there are quote or in which there are no quote permanent enemies. Okay. Trump's speech at an investment forum, which kicked off the first major foreign trip of his second term, offered a sweeping but at times contradictory vision of the role of U.S. military forces in the world. He declared his opposition to past U.S. interventions in the Middle East, but also a willingness to use force to defend the United States and its allies. Quote, in fact, some of the closest friends of the United States of America are nations we fought wars against in generations past, the president said, and now they're our friends and allies. I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess like England and like I guess we have a decent relationship with Vietnam. I don't trying to think who else. I guess Japan and Germany. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Trump's been isolating most of the world with his tariffs, though. So I don't know. He of all people maybe shouldn't be saying that. Um. Okay, so what do we think so far? Okay, so negotiating with Iran. So Trump, to his credit, since 2016 has like used rhetoric of being anti like wars in the Middle East because at that time that was more relevant, right? Like we had the Bush years where they like war with Iraq and Afghanistan, like Europe and NATO were kind of pissed that we did that. Um, and then the Obama years weren't much better, but yeah. So generally, yeah, like Trump's rise to prominence in 2016 came at a time where America was like starting to realize. I mean, Democrats always knew, but like mainstream America was starting to realize that like our Middle East incursions had been a complete disaster and like had left us worse off. Like like nation building Iraq was a total shit show, so on and so forth. Um, and Trump like was distinct like, that he stood out in the Republican Party because of that like he called up Jeb Bush for he's like your brother put us in the wars in the Middle East. They were quote big fat mistake, all of that. Um, but yeah, but since then he really hasn't like that was all rhetorical and maybe it helped him get elected and stood out and like people liked it because they were realizing like yeah these wars were kind of a disaster and weren't good for us. But he was all talk like he didn't like he increased drone strikes in the Middle East. I remember that. I think it was like by like 490% or some insane statistic or percent increase. And what else? Like he didn't like. I don't know. I think he like put like. Did he put more troops in Syria? I don't know. He's complained about Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan, like despite like him wanting to do it, but he just kept delaying the date. He never did it. But then that's the other thing. We had a, and then the other thing is we had a peace agreement with Iran that he like ripped up like because Obama did, and he just doesn't like Obama, right? So, like Obama had a peace agreement where they weren't going to get a nuclear weapon. And it was like a really good agreement. Like they let like the International Atomic Energy Agency like do inspections to make sure Iran wasn't developing um nuclear technology for the purposes of like harnessing a nuclear weapon only for like power. And he ripped it up because he said it was like a bad agreement, even though he's just saying. I think he just said that because it was Obama did it. He just wanted the optics win. So now he's coming back trying to do another. Doing he's basically if he does an agreement, it's going to be the same thing Obama already had. Like so, it's just he just gets credit for it. He just wants to be like he wants to look like the one who did it. So um yeah. So far I don't know, but I guess the takeaway is like Trump does seem to want like uh peace in the Middle East. So that's good. That's a start. Yeah. Okay, so Trump made the announcement as he sought to pump money from his oil rich from his this oil rich region into the American economy, spending a day on pomp and ceremony as he signed a sheaf of investment agreements. All right, from the moment he got off Air Force One, pumping his first and warmly greetings. Oh my God! Pumping his fist and warmly greeting Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, he seemed to focus on securing a range of deals from the technology titans and business executives he brought with him. Of course, this is just funneling money into like the oligarch class. But in a speech with elements of a campaign rally, one that began with an audience of Saudi leaders and investors standing and taking photos of Trump as he swayed to Lee Greenwood's "God Bless the USA" and concluded with YMCA, of course. He addressed the host of scrutiny's challenge or security challenges plaguing the Middle East, as well as a renewed willingness for the United States to have a role in addressing them. Okay. He said he would never allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon, but with talks underway on limiting Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanction relief, he said he was ready to deal for a deal and pushed Tehran to take the olive branch he was offering. He also said he would remove sanctions on Syria, something that he said was requested by the Saudi crown prince, delivering a significant boost to Syria's new economy. Okay, I actually think that's a good thing. Like, I mean, not that the new Syrian government's like great. Like, I think their top guy, like their leader, was just like a former like Taliban dude. I could be wrong, but I think it's probably better than Assad, and like we should at least start on solid ground, even if they're not great. Maybe at least like give them a chance. They might blow it, but at least we can say we give them a chance. Give them a chance. But yeah, again, as for the Iran thing, we already had a deal with Obama made a deal and Trump pulled out of it. Like I think just because he doesn't like Obama and he would rather do a deal himself because he thinks himself is like a chief deal maker and he's like yeah. So if we already had a deal and we screwed it for nothing because Trump wants to be the one who made a deal. So that's silly, but whatever. Um. Oh, what I do for the crown prince. God, he's such a cuck. All right. The Syrian sanctions date to the long brutal region of President Bashar al-Assad, who was ousted in December, and was intended to inflict major pain on his regime, but led to devastating economic fallout for Syrian civilians. That's most sanctions. It's not. That's just the price you pay, I guess. They were left in place because of uncertainty about the intentions of Syria's new leaders, who renounced a past affiliation with Al Qaeda. Yeah, okay, so Al Qaeda, not the Taliban. But critics inside and outside of the United States said leaving the sanctions in place too long risked alienating a new leadership that might be open to cooperating with Washington and could increase Syria's dependence. Also said the modern Middle East was created, quote, by the people of the region themselves. I maybe I don't know. It definitely wasn't in the past, suggesting he will pursue a far more restrained approach than his predecessors, including Joe Biden, who repeatedly slammed the Saudi crown prince for his humanitarian rights record. Yeah, that's the other thing we're getting at. Like Trump Trump's approach to the Middle East isn't he frames it as like, yeah, we're gonna like because like his past was like, oh, American intervention in the Middle East has been a disaster, which it has. He was right, but like his approach is just like, let's just tolerate the human rights atrocities of the governments there. That's what like us not intervening in the Middle East will look like. Which it's not like the first time we intervened that was what we cared about. I mean, I'm sure ostensibly that was the rhetoric we used, but like yeah, it's not like as a country, I don't think we should just be overlooking human rights abuses because if our government doesn't care about human rights violations there, they're not going to care about violating like they're going to violate citizens' rights here. Like why would they stop just with over there? Like they're not going to care about American citizens either. So yeah, it's really incredible what you've done, Trump told the crowd, which included Saudi and U.S. leaders. In the end, the so-called nation builders wreaked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. Okay, that's true, but now it's just like we're just letting the current people in power stay in power at the just by violating people's rights, so and keeping people down. So that's not like I mean, yeah, I guess like America first. We shouldn't like be sending troops over there to die for like foreign causes, but like tolerating saying we achieve peace in the Middle East and like we've improved by just ignoring the human rights violations isn't really much more like egalitarian. So Trump has often expressed skepticism about alliances, saying that too many U.S. allies take advantage of Washington's military umbrella while doing little in exchange. That was another big thing. He was always mad about NATO, like Eastern European countries not paying their share in NATO, which I don't really think that was like maybe there was some truth to that, but it wasn't that big of a deal because he's like missing the forest for the trees. Like at the end of the day, they're still like in the American camp, right? We'd prefer that to like Russian conquest and the rebuilding of like the freaking Iron Curtain, whatever. But on Tuesday, even as he said Middle Eastern nations have done best when they've stood on their own, he vowed I don't even I guess they done best for like the few like oligarch crown princes over there who control the wealth. Most of the people there are just poor and have no rights. So, quote, he vowed, quote, I will never hesitate to wield American power if it's necessary to defend the United States or to help defend our allies. And there will be no mercy for any foe who tries to do us harm, or us or them harm. Okay. Throughout the day, Trump frequently lavished praise on the crown prince, praising him for this from the stage. He's an incredible man. Oh, geez. Trump said of Mohammed. Known him a long time. There's nobody like him. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, my friend. Both the overture to Iran and the end of sanctions in Syria were a blow to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who was already smarting from Trump's decision to skip a visit to Israel despite being in the region. The Israeli leader has pushed a hard line on both issues. So that's, I mean, obviously I'm supportive of that. I think Trump is, because Trump, I feel like a lot of his political, or his approach to navigating politics just comes down to like personal relationships, because I don't really know how much he actually knows about politics. And I think, most people have said Netanyahu's kind of like a control freak and kind of an asshole. So I'm sure Trump, like, he just got on Trump's bad side, and now Trump's like, all right, screw Israel. I mean, obviously the Republican Party is like a cuck to Israel, but they're also like, subservient to Donald Trump, so there's not much they can do about it. Um, which is good, because Israel's a settler colonialist, ethno-nationalist, like pariah state who just looks to just externalize violence constantly. So like, us being allied with Israel is definitely like putting us more in harm's way than we need to be. So I'm fine with that. Um, yeah. Okay, let's see. But it was a remarkable show of unity between the Saudi and U.S. leaders, and it had a far different tenor from the visit that Biden made as president nearly 3 years earlier. Biden once vowed to make the kingdom, quote, a pariah for its human rights abuses, and on his visit confronted Mohammed about the 2018 murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, which the Trump administration covered up, by the way. The FBI did an investigation and like ordered they not release it because, as Trump said, I'll do anything for the crown prince or whatever, telling him in a quote straightforward and direct way that the killing was unacceptable. The Saudi crown prince did not greet Biden at the airport during the visit, instead meeting him at the royal palace, where the two exchanged a fist bump. Um, yeah, so I think that's like kind of the main theme I'm taking away from this article so far is like, you know, Trump, like America in the past, our interventions in the early 2000s were a disaster. Like we screwed up the Middle East, we ruined our reputation abroad, like all that. Like a bunch of American soldiers and died for nothing, all that. But Trump's now approach to like overcome that is like, let's try to like build good relationships with the Middle Eastern countries um by just accepting the current leaders who happen to be like horrible people because they like do human rights violations to their citizens and like people abroad. And but he's just like, we should overlook that. Probably, I'm guessing it's because he wants some like oil deals. Like I imagine that's what this is going to come down to. Like he wants like cheap oil because screw green energy, right? Let's drill baby drill or whatever. um but yeah, so I think that's one. But which, so that just gets to our priority. Like we're just our priorities. Like for, so because Trump hates green energy and wants cheap oil, he's gonna align with Middle Eastern countries and overlook their human rights violations to get it. Which again, if they're willing to overlook human rights violations overseas, they're willing to do it here. Like that, it's not like they're above it. They already aren't. Like they're not giving due process to the people they're deporting. And I'm sure they're gonna start going after left wing commentators sooner or later. Um, so yeah, that's so yeah. So and that's the thing. Like, at least Biden was decent on that. At least he was like, yeah, we're not gonna just overlook human rights violations. I mean, with Israel he would, but Saudi Arabia, I guess not. Um, it has been 8 years since Trump first visited the kingdom as president, and in that time, his personal relationship with the Saudi crown prince has withstood significant trials. It was during Trump's first term that the U.S. intelligence agencies, determined that Mohammed was complicit in the killing of Khashoggi, a Washington Post contributing columnist. Okay. While the kingdom was shunned by the international community and business leaders for a time following Khashoggi's killing, the investors and brands are now back. Okay. The same investment forum that Trump addressed in Riyadh was also attended by CEOs from Uber, Amazon, BlackRock, and SpaceX. Typical Republican. This is all. Any deal they make isn't for the good of America. To the extent it is, it's like, well, okay, I shouldn't say that. It's to the good of like the oligarchs who rule America. Maybe the workers get some trickle down increase in wages. Not in, no, that's fair. That's not even true. They'll get maybe something small, but the vast majority of like the fruits of the deal are going to the rich. That's just how Republicans do business everywhere. We affirm this important bond, and we take the next steps to make our relationship closer, stronger, Trump told the forum. He pledged that the alliance would endure. It's more powerful than ever before, and by the way, it will remain that way. We don't go in and out like other people, he said to roars of applause. Okay, I mean, that's just it. When the right's in power, we snuggle up to, like, you know, more authoritarian places like Russia and these people. As Trump, and that's who we want to seek out to do business with, because, human rights violations get in the way. As Trump arrived here for the first extended foreign trip of his second term, the start of his 4-day trip of 3 Middle Eastern countries was filled with the kind of lavish display he craves. Yeah, that's the other thing. The guy who lived in a gold-plated Trump Tower obviously is, like, impressed by this. Ahead of Trump's landing in Riyadh on Tuesday morning, workers scurried to ready a lavender-colored carpet that lined the steps and guided the pathway to an opulent room near the tarmac. In the morning, Air Force One was escorted by 6 Saudi F-15s, flying in close proximity to the presidential aircraft as it made its final approach. In the afternoon, the presidential car, nicknamed the Beast, was escorted by a pack of Arabian horses. Dang. Walking in formation around the armored limousine as a band and an honor guard would. Yeah, I'm sure that's all Trump needed to be won over. Killing a journalist. Screw it. Who cares? All right. As he arrived at the Saudi royal court, Trump and the crown prince walked down a purple carpet before arriving in a massive gilded hall where top U.S. and Saudi officials were sitting in a ring around the edge. Trump and his Saudi counterparts settled in large upholstered purple chairs at the head of the room. The encounter also featured a parade of the richest and most prominent Americans in Saudi business and tech titans, all walking through marble hallways and to join a receiving line to speak briefly with the country's 2 leaders. There was an extended conversation with Elon Musk, he's still around. Jeez, that sucks, because I thought they were trying to distance from Elon Musk because, like, he just had bad optics. Like, he lost that judicial race in Michigan, so they were like, oh, we don't need his money's not doing it, because that's the only reason that, like, they tolerated him, because he had money to, like, throw out Republican causes and elections, but that wasn't working anymore. So I thought they kind of got rid of him, but I guess, like, and also he has bad optics. Like, he's like just a autistic freak who can't, like, he's too revealing sometimes. There was an extended I'm not trying to, like, obviously I'm not saying anything about autism. I'm just saying I'm just using it to say, like, he doesn't know, like how to stay in line to, like, appear like he's like he can't, like, push the narrative that they're pushing. He fucks it up because he doesn't have social skills. And like, you need to be able to do that if you're his often casual dress of t-shirts and hats, and instead wore a suit and tie. Okay, Trump spent time introducing Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, to the Saudi leader, which I don't know how they like that, because they're pretty sexist. OpenAI, well, I guess they like money more, though. OpenAI co-founder Sam Altman gestured with his hands in animated discussion. The post has a content partnership with OpenAI. Okay. One person brought several. Wonder if they brought Jeff Bezos. Did they say Bezos? I don't remember. I'm not gonna go look. One person brought several printouts to deliver a brief presentation to the 2 leaders. Patrick Soon-Shiong, the owner of the Los Angeles Times and a billionaire medical researcher and investor, that's kind of cool, held forth in a warm conversation. Okay. Some 250 people were on the guest list, showcasing the priority that Trump has placed on securing business deals and more cooperation between the U.S. and Saudi leaders. Includes Stephen A. Schwarzman, CEO of Blackstone Group, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, and Andy Jassy, the CEO of Amazon. Oh, okay. Okay, well, that's close enough. There was high-ranking officials in Citigroup, Google, Northrop Grumman, Uber, Coca-Cola, and Boeing. Okay, who wants Boeing anymore, though? As you know, we have the biggest business leaders in the world here, Trump said during an afternoon meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince, who was at his side throughout the day. They're going to walk away with a lot of checks and a lot of things that they're going to provide. Okay, so that's the other thing. A lot of these deals are probably just going to be giveaways to the military-industrial complex, which, that's great, because we need more of that. We should have an economy based on killing people. That's fun. Like, yeah, okay. All right. He suggested that some 2 million jobs would be created by his 24-hour visit to Saudi Arabia. I don't believe that. Trump claimed to have attained $600 billion in investment. I don't also believe that. Commitments, although details were vague, of course. Some investment here from the Saudis. All right. Part of the commitments came from came in the form of a $142 billion arms deal that will provide Saudi Arabia with military equipment for more than a dozen U.S. defense firms. Yeah, that sucks. that we don't need more, like, the military industrial complex is evil. Like, we don't need, like, the fact that we're, like, building an economy based on, like, people's jobs are predicated on, like, whether countries can buy weapons for war is not good for the sake of humanity, right? Like, I don't know how else to explain that. Like, yeah, like, if yeah, like, I'm sorry, like, and the military industrial complex knows that. Like, they put like their factories in, like, swing states so they can, like, have leverage. Like, they know that, like, yeah, they know this stuff. That's not good. All right. The announcement marks an extension of robust military sales to Saudi Arabia, stretching back through numerous presidential administrations. Between 2010 and 2020, Washington proposed foreign military sales of more than 100 billion, according to a 2023 report from the Independent Congressional Research Service. Um. Okay. Yeah. I guess that's the other theme. Like, that's what Republicans do. Like, they're like. I mean, obviously, only they're capitalists. All they care about is making money, and they'll do it in any way possible. And that's what all this is. They're like making money at the extent of human rights, and it's all just transactional. Like, and it just creates in groups and out groups, right? Like, now we're gonna, like, let's multipolarity divide the world for the sake of, like, making money off of, like fear and fighting. So yeah, this isn't good for humanity, because who wants a world that's just like some people making money based on fighting. So now we're just fighting all the time. We could have, like, global socialism, and no, we have to do this. We have to fight so some people can make money. I don't know. Okay, I don't really care about reading the rest. So yeah, I guess that's the takeaway. Just typical Republican. Let's ignore human rights violations to make money. I'm trying to think if I need to add anything. I'm trying to think, like, where does this go? I mean, yeah, that's the direction we're heading in. That's the direction it always is. I mean, I would say that Trump's a complex. He's not really that much of a complex figure. I think he is, like, I don't know, because I would say, like, obviously, parting ways with Israel isn't good for the military industrial complex, but yeah, like, Trump cares about his ego more than he cares about, like, that's the one thing he cares about more than making money, probably his personal ego, at least making money for other people. He'd probably debase himself a little, make money, maybe. And so yeah, I'm sure Netanyahu pissed him off or something, and that's why he doesn't care, or he's okay with the military industrial complex losing there, and they'll make up for it here. So yeah, not good, but this isn't good. So far, this isn't really good, because we're just, yeah, tolerating human rights violating countries. So I don't know. All right, thanks for watching.